Thank you very much, Muriel. If you're anything like me, in 2 days' time, on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, about a minute in, your brain will obnubilate any further thoughts. You'll run out of ideas of heroes you can celebrate. And this is why I thought I'd do this speech in particular today, so you'd have a load of visual images you could remember for that occasion. For today's speech is about remembering a rather unusual World War II hero. And when you think of the word hero or heroine, who springs to mind? Has anyone got any particular hero or heroine that springs to mind? Unmute and name someone. Anyone got any thoughts?
Winston Churchill?
Winston Churchill, that's one. Okay, and anyone else?
Spike Milligan.
Spike Milligan, yes, two great heroes. Spike Milligan in particular, very brave stand-up comedian. So you may be thinking of a superhero when you think of someone who's heroic. You may be thinking of someone who's super brave, like this cat running in front of all these German shepherds, any one of whom could end up chasing her. Or you could think of someone exceptional. Today's hero is truly exceptional because today's hero isn't even human. Today's hero is actually a bear. And I'm not thinking of Winnie the Pooh because he's fictional, nor am I thinking of Ulrich Bernison from the Golden Compass, or even that famous ancient Greek philosopher, Aristotle. Afraid not any of those. I'm thinking of a real bear and a real war hero. And here you'll see him enjoying a beer after a long shift. He really did drink beer. He was quite an interesting character. I'm talking, of course, of Wojtek, the soldier bear. And what's this image? Is he carrying a salmon? What is in his hands? It's an artillery shell. Of all things, it's one of the most famous images of him, which you will see many times in this presentation, of him carrying an artillery shell as a soldier bear. Let me delve into the story. To understand Wojtek the soldier bear, you have to understand the journey of the 22nd Polish Artillery Supply Company, because it really is quite geographically unusual. They started, obviously, in Poland. And as you might know, in World War II, Poland got invaded by Germany from one side and the Soviet Union from the other. And so they ended up in Siberia, in the Siberian prison camp, until 1941, when they got released. And instead of going back to Poland, they ended up in Iran, which is where they met Wojtek the soldier bear. They then proceeded to Egypt to fight with the 8th Army, and lastly, to Italy. So quite a geographical spread of locations. This is one of the earliest pictures of Wojtek, the soldier bear. They discovered him on an Iranian train platform, and he was an orphan. His mother had been shot, and the son of the guy who shot him sold him to the Polish 22nd Artillery Supply Company, and they recognized a kindred spirit, someone who'd been orphaned by the war, and took him to heart. Incidentally, Wojtek means smiling warrior in Polish. And this is quite a curious photo. You know already that he drinks beer, but also Wojtek was being fed by this artillery company, was being given cigarettes. And he didn't know how to smoke them, but he never quite learned that art. But instead, he used to eat them, and they used to feed him with ready abandon these cigarettes and beer. And this is another scene from when he was traveling in Iran and to North Africa. They used to wrestle with Wojtek. And as you can see from his expression, he really enjoyed this. He really was into sort of battle and fighting. So what happened next is quite curious, because when he ended up going to Italy, in Italy, they banned the Allied armies from having any pets or any mascots of any kind. So how did they solve this? They recruited him. They recruited him into the army, and he was such a good soldier, such a good fighter from all that wrestling, that they made him a corporal, and this is him standing on parade. There's also this picture of him fighting with the artillery supply company. And at this point, there's a bit of an annoying fact, which is working with an artillery supply company, he wasn't on the front lines. So there's no scenes of him mauling Nazis or anything like that. He was just there to supply. But still, the most famous part of his story involved the Battle of Monte Cassino. And all you need to know about this battle is what you can see in this image. It's a fortress on the top of a hill, which you really need artillery to take. And this is where he became famous. And here you'll see an actual picture of Wojtek fighting in the Battle of Monte Cassino, carrying artillery shells back and forth to the 22nd Polish Artillery Supply Company. Unfortunately, it's not a real picture. No one thought to take a photograph of this, but as we've established, it's quite an iconic scene, him taking these artillery shells back and forth. So iconic that they even put it in their company logo. They even made the patch they wear on their sleeve out of this symbol of this bear carrying this artillery shell. Now, when you think of heroes or heroines, we've heard of two already, Spike Milligan and Winston Churchill. You may think of many qualities, but one I often think of with heroes, especially on the 11th of the 11th of the 11th, is a legacy where you remember them after they're gone. And with Wojtek, he is very well remembered. He is remembered in Scotland. He lived after the war till 1962 in Edinburgh Zoo. And here you'll again see another artist inspired by the idea of him carrying artillery shells. This is in Edinburgh, but what they did after the war, the Polish Artillery Supply Company lived in Edinburgh, and they raised £300,000 to build this statue in front of Edinburgh Castle. So he's well remembered in Scotland, but also, of course, in Poland. In Poland, he is a war hero. And when you're thinking of famous war heroes this Thursday, you may not think of many Polish war heroes because you may not know many, but I'd like you to think of Wojtek, the soldier bear. He truly leaves the mark of a hero in that his legacy lives well beyond his years. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tim, for a really interesting